Hey, people. I went to install some replacement windows at my friend's this morning. And, oh God, it was hot. So I stopped by the Mexican joint on the way home and drank some margaritas and tequila. And come home and took a nap. And I dreamed about this word in Greek that means the day. I woke up and this dream was so vivid. I didn't even try to remember what word it was because I just knew I was researching on a computer before I fell asleep how vivid the dream was. So I turned my computer on and I got this.
There was fraud in this election. I don't have any doubt.
And it's the chairman and the witness both admitting that there was fraud in the election. And YouTube tells me they had to take it down because the content that advances false claims that widespread fraud and errors or glitches change the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. And so that's not what it says, you know. It says that yes, there was fraud. You can't deny it, neither side.
They have modems that are typically disabled, but in certain states, I believe in Wisconsin, some are temporarily activated.
And whether you believe it was enough to change the election or not, you know, that's on you. But there's no way that you can prove that it wasn't enough.
Senior Democrat leaders, including ranking members.
But yeah, they're trying to control what the world's thinking.
Process of creating a false.
I haven't drank too much tequila or I would get nastier. But yeah, YouTube's run by a conspiracy theorist. But I'm going to go ahead and submit that. But it's not just YouTube. You know, BitChute blocks a lot of my movies too. I tried to post this on the 11th, and they still haven't processed and published it. And if Brighton doesn't like my movies, they'll wait a day before they publish them too, so they're so far back on the list nobody sees them. And they'll get very few views. So I'm still sticking with YouTube as my main channel. So this memory had come up on my Facebook from a couple years ago, yesterday, about this macro cronies. It caused me to come look this up in Ephesians and read this. But you know, the macro is big. Cronies. Cronios is time. Big time. Not long lived, but big time. And so it caused me to read this about the children and parents. And it helped me understand how this punctuation works a lot better. So they call all these together diacritics, all these marks. And this one here, they call it a breathing mark. And apparently the writers of this knew it was so difficult, you know, when people would be trying to figure out how to read this. If you didn't tell them when to breathe, they would turn blue and pass out. But I don't never read on any of this, what they have to say about it, until after I figure out what it is, because I don't want it, what they say, to influence what my logic is telling me. But they call this rough breathing, and it means the H. You know, when you're down underwater, trying to collect all the pennies at the bottom of the pool, and you come up for a breath, that's the sound you make. And so they say it just means, you know, give it an H sound before the vowel, and it only comes in words beginning on a vowel. But they have more diacritics than they have letters in their alphabet. And this is only used in ancient times. As of 82, they don't use it all. And it's because it's a different language now. So, you know, the father is the sun, and the mother is the earth, and the children is the moon. And that's why, you know, the 14 is the harvest, the tessera. The harvest moon means 14-day old moon is ripe. So this is ta, and this ek is l, and it's tattling. And you know, when you see just the ek, they'll say it means of, and in the old Hebrew, you know, the L is just of. And it's the tattling, and then this mark turns both ways. And so when it's this way, I believe that you're reading this V and then backwards. Vet. The vet
woke up. The tattling vet woke up. Vet is go away, but a E-T-T-E, a E-T-E, in the French it's feminine. And in the old Coptic, Egyptian, the et was the feminine quality of the gods. They have the same name as the god, except it would have the T on the end, the egg and the T. But to vet is also, to vent, to let it out. The tattling vet. And then woke up, W-O-K-A-P, woke up. To is gonna sin. Gonna sin was down on your knees, but to gone us in, when you gone, you're in a deep sleep. Or gone to sin. You're fixing to go do something that you're not supposed to. Tattling vet woke up. To is gonna sin. And this is reading the same way, the U and then N-O-M. When gnome. And then this one's backwards, and it means to read the word both ways. So you're reading the letter on the end, and then you go into the end and reading backwards and forwards. And so it's either E-N-N or E-N-E-N. And so the gnome, N-O-M-E, the gnomen, N. And so the gnomen is the names. And the names in carry, K-U-R-Y, and then O-I is how, Rocco. Rocco is ancient word for rest. Rocco, German, rest. This mark they call an iota script, and it means, you read up to it, and then you read backwards. And then you go to the other end of the word. If it was in the middle of the word, you'd read all of this up to it, and then back again. So it's on the end, so you're just reading the carry, K-U-R-Y, and then O-I, how, rock. And then you come from this end, O, how rocko, how rest. The tattling a vet woke up. To is gonna sin. A gnome and a gnomen, a gnomen, a name in carry, how rest. And to who, T-O-U, O-U is who, to who, or to what toga, T-O-2, what toga. And I believe this is the word I was dreaming about. I went to install some windows today, and I come home burnt out. It was hot out there, and I took a rest, and I dreamed about it. And I got up and I started this movie, and I got tired. I passed out again, and I had the same dream about this word. And it was telling me that it was the names of the moon in the dream. And so that's what I believe it's talking about here, the children or the moon. And to what toga? A toga means an outer covering. It's the outer garment, what you're seeing. You're not seeing the underwear. You don't know what's underneath it. You're just seeing the outer, what it wears, its dress. To the toga, and then R, and then E, and then backwards and forwards. So N, to wren. And so, wren, R-E-N, has several meanings. It could be a songbird, a little songbird. But to rend something, is to render. But the toga rennet cestin, rennet cest. And cest, S-E-S-T, is family. N, to rennet. And so the toga rennet cestin is telling what the family's in of D. And then the K-A-I reads as evolve. That's the secret of the keys. It's ancient Welsh, Scandinavian, Greek origin. The keeper of the keys, K-A-I. And it's the secrets, keeper of the secrets. And so the toga, the outer covering, rennet cestin of the divan, D-I-V-O-N. Divan means to, walks gently. And so it's telling two different stories here. but it's let me think that it's a new moon. Tattling of it woke up. What two is gonna sin? Sin is a moon. To gnome in carry, to the name and carry, how rest. To what toga, to what outer covering, rennet cestin, the wren to render its family in, walk softly, devon. Time it on father, the fat earth, the father, the son, the time it on father as who within meter, and meter is time, much earth, to meter, has it in night says it in, and you see the turn's different here. It tells me to read this word backwards and then forwards. So I'm reading it, VENITSESTIN. In night says it in. And then the EH, each, lotin, in toll. Lot is when you lotten something up, you divide it up. The each lotin, and every divide gets a nomen, gets a name on it. And each lotin in toll for tenon, for THENEN, for tenon, the tenant, each lot in toll for tenant. And then this one is difficult. It has this mark that tells you the word reads backwards and forwards. And so you go to this E, and then it has this mark at the end that tells you to read this word backwards when you get to it. And so it's reading the E, and then this way, and then back this way from this mark. And then when you get here, it's telling you to read this word backwards again, and then here. And they were just geniuses that wrote this. And so for the 10 and the allege, AILEG, the allege gape. Gape, they say, is the word for brotherly love. It's usually turned the other way. Allege, the gap, the gape. Pagel. Pagel is an old German word for a calibrator, from the old Low German pagel, water level gauge. And so the allege gap, the calibration lie. And you can see this word for angel inside here, right here, ANGEL. They give the first G a N when they do this. And angel in English are the same word in Greek, except they'll change the EL around. The allege gap, the gape, calibration, and then JAIL, jail is ancient word for goal. Your goal in your soccer field is a little jail. It's the goal. And it comes from this word JAI, is victor. The victor of is the goal. The jail, edge, gappa, back to the A. And so gappa, it could mean a cow herder. The moon was the cow in Egypt. And or it could be a japa, is a priest's chant, a quiet chant under his breath. And so hopefully I'll get a better idea what this means by the time I'm finished this, or I'll post it and watch it on YouTube, and then it'll come to me. And so this is the same marks, except when it's on a capital, they'll put them off here to the side. And I believe, they capitalize all the names, and when they do this, and I believe what it means is, it's telling all the letters on this side. And so it's saying it reads backwards, except you're not starting with the I. Everything on this side of it reads backwards. So now it's just any, A-N-Y, any. And when it comes on this last letter like this, it's telling you to read this back in this direction. And so it's E-V-E. And so the reason they're not using this iota, if they use the iota here, you would read this E-V-E and then V again. But they didn't want you to read the V at the last. And so they're doing it this way, E-V-E. any eaves how. And you know what eave is what connects your roof to the wall. You know, your eve in the evening, you know, is connecting the day to the night. And to any eaves how Janet T. And I figured out in another, and this could be a good movie, in the dietary requirements in Leviticus, that this reads tea, as in green tea or iced tea, and Janet T. And then Vav, you know, to E-H. To each says, you know, this is telling me to read it backwards and forwards. To each says, and then I get to this iota script on the way back, and so I'm reading it backwards again. Has, and then the E-H, finish it off with the H. To each says, has each. To each says, has each. The big time. And then E-Y-P-E. The big time hype pithos. You know, the pithos are the jars with all the drawings on it. You know, the P-I-T-C-H, the pictures, where your pictures comes from. The pithos goes. And so all this artwork that's on these pithos, it's not just telling you what's in the jar, but it's telling you where the planets were, what the heavens were doing at the time that this was bottled up. Because they believe that the planets had a big effect on what was happening on Earth, on how those herbs were growing, how those grapes were growing. And it's explaining these pictures on these pithos in this Bible. And so this last line, you know, is ahoy. Key is vav, you, ahoy, beware, or and how. Potters. You see the father spelled a little different. It's got an E in it now. The potters. The fathers much par or gazette. You know, a gazette is your newspaper. It tells the news. And a orgies is what's going on in them jars, you know, all of the planets, you know, the orgies and par is average, and you know is what you should be shooting on the course. You know, you should be shooting par as average. Under par is better than average. Over par is worse than average. The par orgies, all of the gods together bringing the news. You know, the average of the orgies telling when, you know, this tells me, just read this one time backwards, the you and when whom, telling to noma, and then backwards and forwards, all alo, and then backwards and forwards again, all alouette. You know, alouette, jonte alouette. Alouette is the lark. You know, a lark is somebody that sits by watching. A noma, all alouette. Fertic, and then the other way, the EK reads as a L. Ferticulate. Ferticulate her feet. Q-E-T-E. F-E-T-E, feet. And then you see it's in the middle of the word here. And so it's reading, you know, of, and then ought to in. To tickle her feet of ought to in. Impadia. You know, usually they say this is the children in the payday. Impadia, or in paid. And then Y-A-I is the victor. And then E, the dipe. And then back to the A, the diaper. And that's where your word diaper comes from. And that's why sometimes they'll say this paidia is the children. You know, the paidarion is the little boy. And the paidagogos, you know, is the paid of the lead, who's, you know, the tutors, the paid, the children. Agog, to lead as, is the tutor. You know, the paidi at then is with your childhood at that time, at then of the paidy. But the paidia is just the base word for children. The paidia, the payday. Die is through, the pay through. The paid you, the paidion, the paid how is, the paid make on, and the payday. It's all the children. And so, the paid, they, and then AJE, the age of diaper. The children, they age of diaper, the babies. And then the key is the vav, the W, when, who, this, see. And then backwards. Is it to Anna, O-N-A, on occur you, on occur you. So, if you tickle your children's feet, the payday you're going to get is you're going to get peed on. When, who, this, see, is it to on, the sea, the waters, is it to on. So it's telling a couple different stories here. It's telling one story about the children, but the children, are the moon, and so it's telling the names, the gnomes, and so a moon that is tickling her feet. That means it's just coming in. It's a brand new moon. It's a young. It's coming from a new moon, and it's 1 day old. At the age of the diaper. So it didn't take them long to reject my appeal, and I can't see where they had grounds after watching that movie. All I did was show what was happening at the Senate hearings, where they admitted that there was fraud. But I got to go back and install some windows. I'll probably do it for a couple of days. I'm trying to get some one-handed pictures to show you how to put in some replacement windows, and I'll get a movie up on that. And it's hotter than hell out there, so I might just get one window a day. It might take me 8 days to put in 8 windows. I don't know. So I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.